A lot of times people think you just grab a few ingredients, you throw them together and throw them in a blender. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
But we say here, chemistry happens. We do dry blending of ingredients, but sometimes ingredients don't play well together. So knowing which of those can change, the conditions they're subjected to, sequencing, how you add them, the order you add them in. Take two ingredients that don't play well together and add one on top of the other, and then the next thing you know, you have something happening in that mix that causes problems.
Welcome to the Pet Food Science Podcast. I'm pleased to have Tom Best here with us today. He's the Director of Quality and Food Safety at Trouw, and we're going to talk expansive sort of information on the food science of pet food in his area of expertise. So let's just jump right into it. If you could tell us about your background and how you got started in it, what made you find this as your place in your career?
Actually, you have a business background and have been in sales and marketing the first half of my career, all in nutritional type products. And joined Trouw about 20 years ago and have been here in several different positions, but the foremost quality and food safety here.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I actually first interacted with your company Trouw when I was in swine nutrition back in another life, the other part of my career. The peculiar thing is I don't know that they were in pet food at that time. How did they sort of transition to companion animal supplies?
Well, there were some small startup pet food companies that had approached us. And we were seen as a blender in the industry and pretty good at problem solving. And so in the late 90s, there was a capacity problem, a lot of full capacity, and many manufacturers of pet food were looking at how do I increase throughput.
Yeah.
So we could help them troubleshoot and find ways to take those problem ingredients, combine them with a few other ingredients, and do a rip and tip type product. So if they needed 38 pounds in a batch, we could put that in the right proportion and simplify their process. And in turn, they seem to gain throughput, as much as 5, 10, even 15% more throughput just by taking those problematic ingredients out of the equation for them.
84 million times a day, pets eat meals with ingredients from Trouw Nutrition. We bring together the science of ingredients, nutrition, and blending to unleash possibilities for pet food brands. Premixes are just the start. Turn to Trouw for higher inclusion ingredients too, like proteins and carbohydrates, and highly sensitive ingredients like probiotics. With our palatants and base blends, you can feel confident about what comes in our bags and goes in yours. Learn more at TrowNutritionPets.com.
It's actually a pretty difficult thing, isn't it? I know when people think of pet food, they read the label, and they perhaps don't think about how all those different ingredients need to mix. It's not a small thing. What do you think? What do you have to watch to make that a success? You want it to be quality. You want it to have, like I said, it's got to be there on time, and people are interested in, lots of different facets. You have to have just standard. You have to have this really high quality, but then maybe there's more. I just wonder what your perspective is as that works forward.
Yeah, a lot of times people think you just grab a few ingredients, you throw them together and throw them in a blender. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
But we say here, chemistry happens. We do dry blending of ingredients, but sometimes ingredients don't play well together. So knowing which of those can change, the conditions they're subjected to, sequencing, how you add them, the order you add them in. take two ingredients that don't play well together and add one on top of the other, and then the next thing you know, you have something happening in that mix that causes problems.
In my old look back at my career status, my worst thing I ever did was put a premix of high polyunsaturated fatty acids in with my minerals, and it spontaneously combusted. It's smoking on the floor. You get that stuff out of here, it's going to burn. It's like, oh, bad choice.
Yeah, for sure.
So it can go quite emphatically bad.
In my liquid feed days, we used phos acid and ammonium polyphosphate as two sources of phosphorus.
Yeah.
And if you put those two together, a base and an acid, they would violently react. And if you did that first in the container, it was fine. But if you did one early and then put all your liquid ingredients in there and then added the other, then it would bubble over and create a mess in the plant. So
you just have to, like I said, you have to know the chemistry, and it's not only knowing it, as I do know that, these things happen. You have to apply it, right? You have to put it together. What do you think, as you look at just making a success, what would set a company, yours or another, apart for quality? That, okay, many of us know the chemistry, but it's obviously more than knowing. What really drives that success?
Well, I think having a pretty robust system to be able to make sure ingredients are pet food ready. That may be checking potency on arrival. What concerns do you have that are inherent to that ingredient? Maybe potential contaminants, and taking that into consideration upon receipt. Many times your suppliers will have those same concerns, and therefore they may be doing the testing on those concerns or contaminants, and you can ask them to share that on a C of A, and then take that into account and then set up appropriate monitoring accordingly.
That when you're pulling that together, seems like you're really talking about maybe a program or a sequence of events that you can teach, you can apply in general. Is that right? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna, supply chain is a big thing nowadays, especially when we work in a global environment, and making sure that supply chain is secure, not only in delivering quality ingredients on time, but then putting the checks in place to make sure those ingredients do meet what your intended application is. So you need a robust system to look at the suppliers, and are they touching that ingredient some way, or are they just distributing it? And then the manufacturer itself. So what do they do to manufacture that ingredient? Do they have other processes on site that could potentially bring in concerns that you wouldn't normally consider, not knowing that they have other activities going on that can create a potential risk? So it's all about risk analysis and being familiar with the ingredient, what concerns are there, and then putting in and mitigating those risks as you find them.
That's really interesting. I think one of the things that sort of I understood through the career that surprised me is that process you described, you can't establish by testing quality in later. You have to have that quality process, or you just can't figure out enough things to test. You just clearly aren't going to be able to without knowing what's going through the process and the required results. You don't necessarily even get the capacity to test in the right place. So that makes a lot of sense.
The pet food ready ingredients, right? So it's, again, just a matter of making sure you take the appropriate steps on receipt.
Well, you said your company, it really sends ingredients to many different locations, many different countries. Do you have a different standard, or does culture demand a different requirement as you send those ingredients to different places?
The customer base you work with will determine, obviously, where it will end up. And we're providing the nutritional integrity in many cases. And then we have to be aware of where's it going to end up, and are the regulations in that end country satisfied with what we're doing here?
Do they change a lot country to country, those type of regulations for you?
They can. And tariffs is an interesting twist to add a little bit more entertainment, right?
If we could solve this problem, we'd be politicians. Let's not even go there.
There you go.
That's got to be right. I mean, you've got these things you don't think of when you're designing a system. What about ingredients? Do you have some ingredients you can use in one place but not in another?
Oh, yes. And there's also different restrictions that customer base might be promoting. So country of origin, they may not want to have Chinese ingredients in a product. So then you have to take the steps in order to secure that country of origin and make sure you're using the appropriate ingredient in the right mix.
Yeah, I see that as cultural stuff that any multi-ethnic and multinational corporation's got to run through, but it applies certainly to you. Do you provide it all from one location, or do you have many manufacturing mixing sites out there?
We have two different locations, two plants at one a specialty plant, and then the other blending facility as well, all here in the Midwest.
I think of Trouw as kind of a European country. They have European sites or not?
We do. So we also have pet food blending facilities in other regions of the world. And we're doing the best we can to make sure that we provide these same standards across the globe in the different areas that are active in the pet food industry.
You know, we've talked a lot about quality, and you've been there quite a long time. It sounds like it's always been an emphasis for yourself and certainly for Trouw. But do you think it's changed over time? Do people have a different perspective than they did when you started in the quality?
Oh, yes.
How's that changed?
Well, it's gotten a whole lot more complex. And, as the industry runs into different challenges and you put in different mitigations to cover those potential risks, then what you see is that they're looking to provide what's needed in the different regions of the globe. Here in the U.S., we're in a very mature market, and they're looking for a whole lot more security than you might when you go to different areas of the globe.
I understand.
So right-sizing that quality for the marketplace is important. So that you don't price yourself out of business in a market that's not willing to pay for all the securities you can put in.
Yeah, it was fascinating. Well, as things have changed, have you seen technology drive that? I mean, everybody's interested. I'm interested anyway, and many people are, in this artificial intelligence idea of looking at that kind of broad, many-faceted problem for solutions. Does that come into your space?
It does. We're always testing. We do a lot with positive release. So there we blend a nutritional product together and then test and confirm that it's within spec to make sure that it's been processed appropriately. Testing procedures, that all takes time. Typical turnaround is 2 to 3 weeks to do vitamin testing, for instance. And sometimes having your own in-house laboratory can help you speed up that process. So that's a good thing to consider. There's different methods to recover those particular nutrients from a premix or from other carriers or products that are mixed within that premix. And that can all create difficulties in recovering those nutrients.
Well, do your suppliers, do they look at, like, how long this product can stay on the shelf before I use it, or how it influences the shelf life of my product once I've got it out as a complete food? Is that kind of thing you're involved with?
Yeah, we do a lot of talking, working with our nutrition and formulation team, and working with the customers to make sure we meet that shelf life requirement. What you blend those ingredients with makes a difference as to how long they will last in the bag, right? So we're running this through a very rigorous process. Vitamins themselves are looking for a way to degrade, it seems like. And we're going to run them through some type of, sometimes cooking process, can be freezing, some type of processing, and mix it with other ingredients. And those other ingredients will make a difference as to that shelf life and the degradation rate of those nutrients.
Oh, I understand that. I wonder, as you look at these things we're talking about, it seems like there's a lot of development, a lot of maybe even change over time. Has there been any specific points where, like in your career, this happened and then suddenly everything is different now? We just have to think about the way we do business and the way we present our products differently. Has that been your experience in this area?
Yeah, we're always trying to steer to make sure that we're using the right carriers, the right products. Different requests come in. Animals have allergies, maybe to grains, and we do grain-free products. So, the gold standard for carrier in vitamins was rice hulls, but that's obviously not grain-free. So then you switch to something like pea fiber in place of that. And then pea fiber has a tendency to affect the recovery of some nutrients like vitamin D in that testing phase. So then you have to change your methodology in the testing in order to recover that nutrient and prove that it's there.
It was still there, but the carrier was masking its analysis. That's kind of interesting.
Yep, we run into that quite frequently at times. So, the pet food industry follows the human industry as far as nutrition. And as new ingredients come into play, we think it's really good to provide that potential nutritional package to the rest of our furry family. And sometimes that can create challenges with how reactive those nutrients or nutraceuticals are.
Well, you said a note that surely that's changed over time. The nutraceuticals component, back, when both of us started, if you met all the nutrient requirements, you had a complete and balanced food. We realized later it's not optimum, right? So it wasn't that we were wrong. It was complete and balanced, but there's more that we can do. And so I understand by what you're saying. You that's part of your space too. You would include some of those maybe non-recognized as essential, but still nutritive ingredients.
Yeah, and we're looking at the intent. So what is it we're trying to accomplish? And it's our job to help steer to make sure we don't run into other challenges in accomplishing our end result or end goal.
Well, how important, as you talk about that, you make me think, well, there's probably some interaction going on then with your person who's actually pushing this through say a canning process or an extrusion or whatever that final process is. And they're coming to you and saying, hopefully, this is what we need to accomplish at the end of this. How do we provide that nutrient bundle that Trow's going to provide, or any mixer that would be doing that process? Sounds like interaction is pretty important.
Yes, for sure. And you have to understand what is the exact process they're going to run it through. And there's been many studies over the years predicting what those losses would be through that thermal process. And you take that into consideration. You also look at the shelf life of the products and what what is their degradation on the shelf. You just kind of back calculate it. And the goal is to hit that end minimum required nutrient at the end of shelf life.
Yeah, because what really matters is what the pet's eating. We like to think about what we put in the food, but we got to extrapolate that out, don't we?
Yes.
What is the most critical? Is there one? Like I think of maybe vitamin C, or I don't know, some particular nutrient that's kind of like that one's going to fail. We got to watch it closely.
If you look at the FDA, they're focused on vitamin D in dog food, thiamine in cat food. They've come to us and looked at what we do and testing, and we've argued back that we feel that all the nutrients are important. So you can't just focus on one. Those are obviously critical nutrients for those species, but we know that when we manufacture a typical 20, 25, 30-pound bag of dog food, that animal's going to consume that complete diet for 2 to 4 months. And that's enough time to potentially have a problem if it isn't nutritionally adequate. So we put a lot of emphasis with our team. We talk about the consequences if we don't get it right, and how important it is to make sure that we're hitting exactly what we're supposed to accomplish at the end of the day.
Oh, it's interesting. I can sort of see what FDA would be saying, since they'd love a marker, and you're saying, yeah, maybe the marker isn't just sufficient. Is that kind of how that conversation goes?
Well, I understand their concern. Vitamin D is probably has the smallest range as far as between what's nutritionally adequate and what's toxic.
I don't agree. When I was there, I was on the AFCO subcommittee for nutrition. We set that vitamin D. We didn't have good upper limits, so it's a regulatory constraints. I don't think it's a nutritional. I think selenium probably has got the smallest. You want the optimum.
Yeah, definitely much narrower. Yep, much smaller concentration. I think the challenge is with vitamin D. There's been enough problems, recalls, and challenges within the industry that's where the focus has taken us.
And it's not likely to change anytime future. I understand they've got their regulatory priorities. I just don't think they're necessarily nutritionally aligned with the pet, but yeah, that's okay too.
Yep. Yeah. All the nutrients need to be taken in consideration. We have a lot of emphasis also on the kill step and taking out Salmonella. And, for the animals themselves, they're pretty tolerant of this type of bug. But we have a lot of humans that are feeding, a scoop at a time, a cup at a time of this feed. And it's more for the safety of the humans than it is for the safety of the animals. But yet a lot of emphasis there.
Yeah, and that one I see real easily. I know where I used to work, they had the sort of positive release where they knew the Salmonella was not there before they'd send the product out. And
exactly.
Just, you just don't want to deal with that hazard at all.
You can make products that are dusted on after the kill step. And so knowing that they're not going to go through any type of process, then we have to test those to make sure they're clean as we ship them out. It's just standard protocol.
Yeah, it's a good one, right? You don't want Salmonella in pet foods.
No, not at all.
I wonder if you look at it, we sort of talked about the big changes that have happened and the significant efforts that your company and others have put into making that quality aligned with the market. Those are not small things. But what about looking at horizon, maybe even over the horizon, future stuff? Do you see things there that you might be excited about coming into the industry and making a difference?
Well, it continues to get more complex. There's bigger and harder ask And I think for us, from a quality standpoint, it requires us to have that nutritional knowledge as well, and to work very closely with our formulation and nutrition teams. Scheduling is always a challenge. And how do you sequence batch after batch, and where to flush and clean the system before you move to the next batch to make sure you don't have carryover? And there are plenty of softwares out there that focus on just in time, getting the ingredients in and creating a schedule along those lines. But we have to watch, like those nutrients we talked about, to make sure they don't carry over into the next batch and cause a problem. So getting a scheduling software that takes in consideration the potency aspect of scheduling could be very critical.
Oh, that's interesting. I thought of it.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the higher areas of risk for this industry, and any livestock industry for that as well, because getting the nutrients right and making sure that you don't have carryover from batch to batch or product to product.
So is there, probably not, but I'm just back to my large nutrition, large animal nutrition day. There was a transportation problem with mixing too, but you probably have really pretty totes, defined totes or bags, or like you said, ripper tip, that transportation is sealed, or is that a problem?
No, the goal is to get it blended homogeneously, and then the carriers and the diluents help keep it homogeneous during transport to minimize any of that segregation that may go on. So typically that's been focused on over many years, and we're in pretty good standard there.
That's great. That's part of the knowledge that just accumulates with experience, isn't it? So that's great.
It's time for our famous three.
Well, I always like to ask, and I wonder is this an industry, if someone's looking at this and this podcast and saying, do I want to work there? Would you recommend they do it, or what's been your thoughts?
It's been a great market for a long time. So it's been a growing market. It continues to grow, and it's a very rewarding career. Whether you have a nutritional background, whether you have a chemistry background, whether you have like myself, I've got a business background and learned enough about nutrition that this just made sense to me, and in all aspects of livestock and companion animal. So very rewarding, but companion animal has been steady and growing industry for quite some time, and I see that continuing.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it would be an exciting place, maybe if you were a student or interested in that career, an exciting place to go. Would you tell us a little bit, just, I like to hear people think aloud about it, as you look for people you'd like to interact with, people maybe on a team you would lead or that you would join, what characteristics do you see in that person that you'd like to work with?
We're always looking at work ethic. For us, it's integrity is critical. Do what you say what you do. Of course, in quality, you document it. But there's a lot of young talent out there today. And, we spend a lot of time looking at behavioral styles and understanding how people communicate, and finding the right people to fit into the team that mesh well. And you encompass all those behavior styles to build the strength of the team. And it's actually that chemistry. We're a very people-oriented company. We're global, but have a much smaller feel, and not many layers. So you're going to work from top to bottom, and it's a fun industry to be in.
Sounds like it. I just think that many people don't, they think of maybe feeding pets, but they don't necessarily think of your component of the requirements and quality required to make that, optimum food they'd like to feed.
We always say the nutritional integrity of our customer's brand is our responsibility.
Shared. Shared.
Yep.
Tom, it's been good to talk with you, and I think very interesting. I sure understood a little better about what quality matters and what a good quality organization can bring to pet food. So I think, do you have any other thoughts? I mean, just throwing it out there.
Thanks for having me. And, I've been very blessed. We have a very strong quality culture here. I can remember when I first came into this role, I was asked to say a few words at a luncheon. And I asked everybody from the quality team to stand up. And, of course, everybody that reported in the quality stood immediately up, and I waited until everybody in the room was on their feet. And I said, this is what it takes. Everybody here has to do their job to the best of their ability in order for us to deliver the product. No matter what you're doing, if you see something, then you need to raise your hand and say, hey, let's hold the presses here and make sure we get this right.
No, that's a good, I like that illustration, because I don't think I would have answered it sort of with the knowledge you describe. I said, I don't work for those guys, but yeah, for quality work, everybody's
got to do their part.
Well, again, thank you. And it's been a pleasure to meet you and have the chat. So.
All right. Thanks, Dennis. Have a great day.